This episode is brought to you by Iams Pet Food. When you choose Iams dry dog or cat food, you can see a difference in your pet with your own eyes. Healthy energy in 5 days, healthy digestion in 10 days, and healthy skin and coat in just 25 days. Satisfaction for you and them. Guaranteed or your money back. Feed Iams dry dog or cat food and see a visible difference. Visit iams.com/difference to learn more.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. At Mint Mobile, we like to do the opposite of what Big Wireless does. They charge you a lot, we charge you a little. So naturally, when they announced they'd be raising their prices due to inflation, we decided to deflate our prices due to not hating you. That's right. We're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Hey, it's Austin James. If you're like me, trying to live your best life while living with diabetes, you can relate to worrying if you're doing a good job managing your diabetes. I use the Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor to get real-time glucose readings and see the impact of every meal and activity to make better decisions. The Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor can help me live life with diabetes on my own terms, and it gives me more time for the things I love, like being a dad and a musician. Now this is progress. Learn more at freestylelibre.us.
For prescription only. Safety info found at freestylelibre.us.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to AI Scouted on Anfield Index Pro. I'm Dave Hendrick, joined as always by Mr. Karl Matchett. How are you, sir?
Perturbed at your insinuations. I take double-figured holidays a year, but how are you?
I'm good. Chuffed after last night, Karl. Liverpool 3, Brighton and Hove Albion 2 in the EFL Cup round of 16. Your thoughts on A, the team selection, and B, the game itself?
Yeah, didn't hate the selection. Maybe one or two more changes than I was expecting, and I think it quite clearly showed the priorities, given it was a strikerless system and people came in who haven't played, and it was basically everyone who either hasn't or isn't going to play gets a game today. So I was a bit surprised it went that far. I was at the match last night, so it was quite interesting to see some of them, obviously, who came into the team. I was generally quite pleased with the fact that they played the way that we play, even if it was not quite as clean all the time or didn't have the finishing pass sometimes, and obviously a few technical errors, which is to be expected when people come into the team. But generally, you could see that this was Arne Slot's team, even though it was different players. So I think that that's always a really big positive, regardless of results, because then it means when they come in, just one or two of them at a time rather than 8 of them at a time, then you are going to basically not have too much of a drop-off in terms of what the team does. So that is a really good thing. A good result, a bit of a crazy finish. I don't think it was a game where we needed to be as tense as we were at the end, but they had quite a few chances. We had quite a few chances. First 10 minutes was both goalkeepers seeing who could outdo each other for close calls and turns and stuff. And I think there was a few decent individual performances as well, so all good.
So let's just quickly jump into some of the individual performances. So Vítězslav Jaros makes his first start for Liverpool. Obviously came off the bench against Crystal Palace earlier in the season. Concedes 2 goals. Don't think there's any blame on him for either, particularly the second one, which took a significant deflection and wrong-footed him. He made a couple of great saves, Karl. The save from the header might be the save of the season. He's going the wrong way. He has to readjust his body in the air and just gets his fingertips to it to flick it past the post. It is an absolutely incredible save. What did you make of Jaros last night? All-round game.
Really good. Really, really positive, really confident. I think there was, if you're going to pick anything out, there were one or two aerial deliveries which he tried to punch clear and maybe didn't get too clean a punch on it. But even those was like away from danger into just space as such. So I didn't think he did anything wrong at all.
I was very much the same.
Yeah, the 2 goals, like you say, the second one was a deflection, so you can't do anything about that anyway. But even the first one, he made the save when he was sort of left exposed after the mistake, and nothing you can do about the rebound. If the defenders don't get there first, that's not really on him. So I think he made, well, the save you made, you just mentioned, that was sensational. That was like one to get the entire press box sort of going, oh, at the same time, which is not a normal thing. That was very, very good. But a couple of other really good interventions, a couple of really good one-on-one blocks very early on as well. Tarek Lamptey, I think one of them was, who was running through. It was really good to save from that one. Footwork, brilliant all the way through. Really, really good, really confident. That was quite an impressive showing all around, I thought.
We own 4 really good goalkeepers, Karl. We own 4 really good goalkeepers, and Alisson Becker, Caoimhín Kelleher, Vítězslav Jaros, and Georgi Mamardashvili. And we are well set up for our goalkeeping situation to be very, very strong for a long time, especially when you factor in young Mishur playing in the academy, who's also looks like he's going to be exceptional. I think you'd be pretty hard pressed to find any club anywhere that has a better goalkeeping now and future than we do. In defence,
I would just say, I imagine Chelsea would hope that they would after the amount of keepers.
But they have 26 goalkeepers, and not one of them you could confidently look at and say he's the long-term number 1 there.
Really quickly, Dave, and this is like, top of your head thing, and the fact that Jaros has had a game and a half for us is obviously going to be part recency bias and part gamble. If Alisson, because obviously Alisson's the one who's going to decide when he wants to go. If Alisson was to say right now, I want to leave at the end of the season, would you accept right now saying Alisson and Caoimhín go and Mamardashvili and Vitas are your 2 keepers for next season?
Yeah. Yeah, I would, yeah. I mean, the way I was kind of looking at the situation was that we have the situation we have for this season, which is Alisson, Kelleher, Jaros. In the summer, we sell Kelleher, we loan Jaros to get experience at a high level, and we run through next season with Ali number 1, Mamardashvili number 2, and Harvey Davies or Pitaluga as number 3. Then in the summer of 2026, we sell Alisson, promote Mamardashvili to number 1. Jaros comes back as the number 2, but gets all the cup games as well as, some league games, some Champions League games. And Mishur becomes the number 3 that year. And then hopefully have that for a couple of years. Then we can sell on Jaros and make good money. Mishur becomes number 2 and just keep the pipeline going that way. But if Alisson turned around, and the reason I would say 2026, because then Alisson will be 34 years of age with 1 year remaining on his contract, and he is injury prone. But if he did turn around and say, I want to go in the summer of 2025, I wouldn't hold it against him, and I wouldn't stop him. We will get good money for him. I think Bayern Munich would have a strong interest in him. There'd obviously be interest from Saudi. I wouldn't stop him. If he wants to go, I wouldn't stop him. I think Mamardashvili will be ready to go straight in as number 1. I think he's an elite level goalkeeper. And I think based on what I've seen from Jaros, not just in the game and a half for us, but the loan he had at Sturm Graz last season when he was over here playing for St. Pat's, speaking to St. Pat's fans who watched him, they rave about him. Still to this day, they rave about him. I think that is a very, very talented young goalkeeper, and I would have no problem with him being our number 2. And then you have Davies or Pitaluga as number 3, and I think that's absolutely fine. If Ali wants to go, I would say yeah.
Yeah, my only question there is, I'm not sure Mamardashvili's going to say yes to being number 2. And if it's 2 years down the line before Jaros is our number 2, he's 25 at that point.
Yeah, he's 25 at that point. Caoimhín Kelleher is 25 now. He's played, 30 games for us or something like that?
No, he's just past 50 now.
50 games up, 50 games. Big woo. Big woo. Gavin Basuna played 50 games before he turned 20. So, he's still very inexperienced in squeezing. Like, Yaros is pretty much the same level of experience as a senior goalkeeper. I don't think Yaros would have a problem being back up at 25, 26 and then getting his move, because that's still young for a goalkeeper. He's still got 8, 9 years of high-level performance left and can still go and get his big move. And it would be easier for him to get his big move from Liverpool than it will if he makes, like, a sidewards move. By sidewards, I mean if he goes from being number 2 at Liverpool to number 1 at a smaller club, where he's going to potentially get exposed because he's facing a barrage every single week. We've seen it happen with plenty of goalkeepers who've been at top clubs, gone somewhere else. And just take Dean Henderson, for example. Dean Henderson at Sheffield United, at Nottingham Forest, and at Palace does not look like a goalkeeper who's one day going to move for 40, 50 million. When he was at United as number 2, he did. Because clubs could look at it and say, okay, well, we can now predict how he would be in our team facing similar type of work. When you're at a smaller club and you're conceding more goals, I don't think you get the same look. And I think Mamadashvili, I think he's already agreed to be number 2 for a year. So, I mean, if he doesn't want to be number 2 for a year, then fine. If he wants to, if Ali's staying and Mamadashvili doesn't want to be number 2, loan him for a year and have Yaros as number 2. That's fine as well. Either way, we're in great shape. Defensively, a lot of talk online last night about Jarrell Quansah, who obviously gives the ball away for their first goal, and there's no hiding from the fact that is on him. Though, as you mentioned, when Yaros saves the first one, the defenders don't react. They all kind of stand around. I've seen people try and blame him for the second goal as well, though, because the deflection is off him. I think he makes a pretty good effort to block the ball. I would look at Andy Robertson and the horrendous defensive header as the primary factor in that one. What did you make of Quansah's overall performance? Because Arla was quick to praise him and say that he thought he played well, but that, he'd obviously made a mistake and that's why they took him off.
Yeah, I didn't think well was quite an accurate one. I thought he was fine. It was about the performance I would expect, to be honest, from a player who's in a key position like centre-back, who's quite young still and inexperienced, and who hasn't played this season, basically. He's only played, two games this season, and one was the first match of the campaign. So, he was fine. I thought of the centre-backs, Gomez was good, and Quansah was okay, but also made a mistake. Like, most of his on-the-ball work was okay. It's a couple of sort of battles, not like outright tackles or anything, but then after the mistake for the first goal, he came back and made a really good slide tackle on, I think it was Matoma who was running through down the left channel for them. He was all right. Most of the work was good, but you're a centre-back. If you make a mistake, it's usually a really big goal-scoring chance, and this time they scored from it. So that's not good, but it just happens. If you bring people in who haven't got rhythm and they're young and trying to make a name for themselves and all the rest of it, and the way that we play, mistakes are going to happen, unfortunately. So I thought he was all right, but nothing more than that. I thought Gomez was actively good.
Yeah, I know. I'd agree on Gomez for sure. I think Joe should be the number 3 centre-back behind the 2 starters because he's the senior one. He's the more experienced one, and he's proven himself at a higher level than Jarrell has. Jarrell's still, he's a baby in footballing terms. He had, half a season on loan at Bristol, and then last season with us. This idea that he should be, Virgil or Ibu is patently ridiculous. And, people don't seem to grasp the fact that centre-backs, any defender, but centre-backs in particular, they tend to develop slower and later than forward players. Because forward players can play a lot on instinct. And it's your talent, it's pace, it's skill. That type of stuff is what makes a great forward player. What makes a great defensive player is reading of the game, positional awareness, positional sense, discipline, fundamentals, all things that come with time and experience. So this idea that Quansah should somehow be Virgil van Dijk at 21 years of age, with in and around 50 games to his name at senior level between us and Bristol, is ridiculous. When Virgil was his age, he was with Groningen.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. Ha. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
Get your holidays started with the perfect tree in your perfect style from the Home Depot. Whether you want something that you can assemble in a few clicks, steal the show with over 2,000 color-changing bulbs, or a tree with lights that can be controlled by remote or foot pedal. The Home Depot has it all in our huge assortment of premium trees. Plus, get free delivery on over 2 million items this holiday from the Home Depot. Subject to availability, see homedepot.com/delivery for details.
At Sierra, discover great deals on top brand workout gear, like high-quality bikes, which might lead to another discovery. Getting back in the saddle isn't always comfortable. Good news is Sierra has massage guns. And chafe wipes, too. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
Prep for Thanksgiving at Whole Foods Market. Save now on no antibiotics ever frozen whole turkey, just $1.49 a pound with Prime. Sales on brie and select seafood appetizers help get things started. For sides, go with wallet-happy favorites from 365 by Whole Foods Market. And finish with decadent desserts from the bakery. Or get your whole spread catered. Just order early. Get Thanksgiving ready at Whole Foods Market. Terms apply.
When John Terry was his age, he was still struggling to establish himself as a first choice for Chelsea. And he's held up foolishly by people as, the best Premier League centre-back or whatever. The only times we've seen centre-backs really emerge very young in around the same time attackers tend to emerge in recent years is Matthias de Ligt, who has gone from being the next Nesta to the next Harry Maguire, and like Upamecano, who's also enormously error prone because they never learned the fundamentals. They never got those errors coached out of them. Because they're just playing every single game and they're learning bad habits and those habits become ingrained in them. Whereas with most centre-backs, those bad habits get coached out of them because they're not in the team on a regular basis. Then they're out for a stretch of games, and that's where the coaching comes in. And they're learning from mistakes. Quansah got overexposed last year. We played him too often. So Arna this season starts him against Ipswich, pulls him at half-time, and we've barely seen him since. So it's understandable that he makes an error or two. Like it is. It's going to happen. It's just going to be the same thing with Bradley. He's going to make mistakes because they're young players who have very little football under their belt and they're learning. And they have to be developed. They cannot be rushed. And I don't see why people feel the need to go out after a game like that, where we've won the game, by the way, and take aim at a young player because he's made a mistake. A mistake which, by the way, should not have led to a goal. If his teammates react after the goalkeeper makes the save, it doesn't lead to a goal. And to try and blame him for the second one is just utterly brainless. Look at the fella who has the horrendous defensive header. That's the fella to put the blame on. That's the senior member of that defensive line, by the way. Tyler Morton, Karl. I thought by this point we'd have seen more of him this season, but I thought he did pretty well last night, considering he was up against two big, powerful, rangy midfielders. I thought he held his own. I thought he passed the ball quite well.
Yeah, I think, maybe a half yard off it sometimes in terms of releasing the ball or decision or making the run or whatever. But again, it's not played football this season. So what do you want? I think he came in and played well enough. It's not a performance which is suddenly going to win him a spot in the league team, but it's a showing again that he can play at this level. It's a showing that he's not out of place when he's called upon. And again, I think with a lot of these cup performances, most of them display a level that, like I said, if you were to put them into a league game, whether it's from the start as a one-off change or they come on 60 minutes or whatever, you're not going to get anything different than you already do. Like if he replaces McAllister in a league game, obviously there's going to be a technical drop-off because McAllister's, a World Cup winner and one of the top players in his position in the world. But they're still going to perform the same role. He's not going to be absolute crap. It's not going to be like, we look back at the drop-off in attack was easiest to do in years gone by from, Torres doing Gog, that kind of thing. It's not going to be that kind of drop-off because they're still going to do a very similar job. They're still going to be fundamentally the same type of approach and player. There's just obviously a talent gap, which is fine. I think Tyler Morton's a good player. I really do. He's just not necessarily going to be a Liverpool starting player.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Because
it's more than fine.
It is absolutely.
He starting every week in the Premier League for, let's say he came through at a random team, Southampton or Nottingham Forest or a Leicester. He'd be in the team at all of those.
Yeah, he absolutely would. Like, there's no crime if Tyler Morton becomes Harry Winks. That's a good player having a good career. And one of the purposes of our academy is to produce players who are good Premier League players, but not necessarily good enough to start for Liverpool, who don't just want to have a career as a squad player, but want to go somewhere and play regularly, and thus can bring in a big old chunk of money for the club. And if we can sell Tyler Morton for 18, 20 million pounds, that is absolutely a massive success for our academy. The same thing will be true when we sell Queeving, and there will be others that follow in that path as well. And the more of them, the better.
Yeah.
Because it's a way for us to be self-sustaining. Last point then on the EFL Cup, we drew Southampton away for the quarterfinals. That's mid-December. Do you see any reason to play anything other than a team similar to what played last night? With by then, hopefully, Jayden Danns is fit, Chiesa is fit, Harvey Elliott is fit, so they can all come into the reckoning for it. But away to Southampton, I'd be looking at a similar team to last night. What about yourself?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously with the context of however the team of the league team, let's say, has changed at that point. I think we'll get on to the Brighton upcoming game in a moment, but let's say, for example, Cody Gakpo is going to be an obvious talking point for us. I think at the minute he's earned his starting spot. So should Gakpo be in the team at that time when the quarterfinal rolls around, then maybe you're looking at someone like Chiesa being fit by then and he gets a game time. But yes, essentially, I think very, very similar. More game time for a few players who are pushing or on the fringes. Maybe one or two players who are in and out of the team still get that game to keep their game time going, which is probably where we'd say Cody is right at this second. But yeah, basically, I think so. It's obviously an opportunity to get to the semi-finals, and at this point, I think most people should want to be honest. I know some people don't really care about the cups, or we have to make decisions or whatever, but once you're at the quarterfinal stage, I think you may as well go for it in context to your opponent.
I know, just wait for the final, and if you get there, then care about it. But you're right, like if Ali is back and playing in the league, then Queeveen likely starts the cup game, which is unfortunate for Yaros, but that is what it is. The defence, there's no reason to think it couldn't be the same. In midfield, I think Morton, Endo, and one of Szoboszlai or Jones, depending on which one of them is starting in the kind of the league team. Harvey would be an automatic one, I think, to come in. And then, you know, if Cody is starting in the first team, then Diaz gets the cup game. And likewise up front, if Jota is starting in the league, then Darwin starts the cup, or vice versa. And that doesn't even include Chiesa, who would have to come in there as well. I mean, it just means we have lots and lots of good options once players start to return. And obviously we got the return of Conor Bradley last night, which was a big boost. But you mentioned we play Brighton again this weekend. It'll be a different test. It'll be a different Brighton team because they also rotated quite heavily. But this one will be at Anfield. Now, Karl, Brighton sits sixth in the Premier League thus far. 4 wins, 4 draws, and just the 1 defeat. They hammered Everton on the opening day at Goodison 3-0. They beat Manchester United by 2-1. They went to Arsenal and got a good draw. Arsenal fans still crying about the red card. 2, I think at the time, disappointing results. Certainly the first one remains a disappointing result. A 0-0 draw with Ipswich at home, disappointing. I think they were disappointed with the 2-2 draw against Forest at the time as well. But we were disappointed with the defeat against Forest. But Forest, to be fair to them, have had a really good start to the year. The Chelsea defeat was a clown show. It was one of the worst games you'll ever see from a defensive standpoint, where 5 of the 6 goals scored in the game were easily avoidable as Chelsea won 4-2. They beat Spurs 3-2 in what was a really exciting game, and they came from 2-0 down to do that. They went to Newcastle and got a 1-0 win. And then last time out, I think a disappointing result for them again, or a very disappointing outcome. A 2-2 draw at home to Wolves, where they were 2-0 up after 87 minutes. So they've been a bit hit and miss, but we do have to factor in that they've got a new manager there this year, Fabian Herzlinger, who is 31 years of age, which, I don't know about you, makes me feel absolutely fucking ancient. He took over in the summer from De Zerbi. So what have you made of Brighton thus far this season? And what do you make of Herzlinger in the early reckoning of the season?
Been very impressed with the way he's able to set them up to play very, very quickly the way he wants them to. Like, we've seen a real mix in the Premier League over the last, let's say, 2 years even, of how quickly managers get their new players, new teams to adjust to what they want. You look at Postecoglou, for example. Really quickly, Spurs were a Postecoglou team and maybe haven't taken like the steps to where he wants them to be in terms of consistency and so on. But in terms of their on-the-ball work, their play, their movement, the speed of play, all that kind of stuff, it was like Postecoglou from day 2, basically. And a Slot has obviously had a very different kind of transition because, you know, he didn't take over a manager who was sacked and a team who was rubbish and all the rest of it. But really quickly, a Slot team. Obviously, just lost his job. We don't need to harp on about it, but Ten Hag's team from about the first month onwards never looked like a Ten Hag team.
No. Half time in the Brentford game when they were 4-0 down and he decided to just dismiss all that he'd learned in his 10 years before that.
Yeah. And obviously we've spoken recently about Enzo Maresca as well. Like, I think from the start in matches, his teams look like he's trying to make them, but he quite quickly goes for the result if that way is not really panning out against most teams. So it's very different. And obviously every dressing room and every club culture and all the rest of it is different. So you have to adjust for that. And Brighton, if we're being fair, are probably maybe a little bit used to that kind of change, really, that change in environment, because the squad turnover is relatively high. Like, they're bringing quite a lot of new players and, the next group of players every single season. They obviously had a few managerial change-arounds there. They were quite quick to play De Zerbi's way. And I think they've been really quick to transition into Herzl's way now as well. So very, very impressed from him from that perspective. The fact that they've only lost 1 game out of 9 is really good in the Premier League as well. Obviously not as many wins as they might have wanted to. And I spoke with Guy about this, obviously, when we did the pre-Cup Brighton scouted earlier in the week. Not the defeat, it felt like a defeat, I would imagine, but losing 2 points in the way that they did so late on in that game was just ridiculous. But it did hint at where their weaknesses still are and where they can still be got at as a team. And also, for a large part of that game, it did show the real strengths that they have and who has been really impressive for them. I picked out Jorginho Rutter as an example. I think he's been miles better than I was expecting, to be honest. He's playing just off the forward rather than as a number 9 or anything. And I think he's been excellent. His work rate is astonishingly good.
I thought last year when I watched Leeds that when he played behind Joel Pirou, that made so much more sense than when he played as the 9. Brighton obviously had a big summer. So not only the managerial change, but sweeping changes to the playing staff. So Adam Lallana was released, Stephen Alzetti was released, a bunch of younger players released as well. They loaned out about 20 players. They sold Pascal Gross, who'd been a huge part of everything Brighton had done in recent years. Billy Gilmore, who'd come in from Chelsea a couple of years ago, was moved on. And Mo Dahoud, who was signed last summer, didn't work out, was given a free. They also sold Jensen Weir, Dennis Undav, Mark Leonard, and Kasper Kozlowski. But having banked a ton of money in the summer of 2023, which is the summer obviously McAllister leaves and Caicedo leaves.
Whether you're ordering wings for the game, whipping up a 7-layer dip, or ordering pizza, there's something about football that makes you want to eat. And this football season, Uber Eats has the best deals on game day food. No matter what you're craving, from 2-for-1 pizza to buy one, get one wings, Uber Eats will be dropping new deals each week, all season long. Uber Eats, official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. Order now. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details.
Add excitement to your holidays with Ohio Lottery Holiday Scratch-Offs, including $1 holiday cash and $5 holiday lucky times 10, or holiday bonus millions with a 200 times multiplier and a $2 million top prize. Plus, enjoy second chance drawings where you can win 10 times, 100 times, or 1,000 times the price of your ticket. Scratch-Offs make the perfect gift, and best of all, there's no wrapping required. Lottery players are subject to Ohio laws and commission regulations. Play responsibly.
They really did go for it in the transfer market this past summer. So Ibrahim Osman, that was a deal they'd done in the February. He comes in. Then they go really opportunistic and they snatch Yankuba Minta from Newcastle. Obviously had great success at Feyenoord under Arne Slot. They go back to the Feyenoord well. They bring in Mats Wiefer for 25 million. They sign Mario Kozri Jubri, who's a talented young attacker from Arsenal. He's gone loan to Blackburn. Malik Yalkoi, who is very highly rated. Some people tout him as like the next Kante. He was brought in from Gothenburg. He's been loaned out to Sturm Graz. And if you saw the recent Sturm Graz Red Bull Salzburg game, he absolutely monstered the life out of the Salzburg midfield all by his lonesome. Rajan Gruda came in from Mainz. Super exciting winger, attacking midfielder, great dribbler. Riefer for 40 million really did raise some eyebrows, but has turned out to be a really good signing already. Matty O'Reilly came in from Celtic, formerly of Fulham, really talented player. Got injured, I think, 15 minutes into his debut, but he'll come back. And then Ferdi Kadioglu, which was a kind of a saga that dragged on for weeks. They got him done a couple of days before the deadline. He was the player, I think, that caught a lot of eyes at the Euros as a right-footed left-back who could slot into midfield and be your playmaker. So they spent a lot of money here. Very unusual for a club of Brighton's status to spend that type of money, but obviously they're basically spending money that they've already brought in. What did you make of this summer? Were you impressed by the overall business? Was there anything that stood out to you, good or bad? Were you surprised that they spent so much?
I think up until the Rutter deal, which obviously came quite late on, it was not par for the course, but about right for Brighton. Like, you know, they're a well-run club. There's no reason why they can't spend a net positive. I think most of the signings were of the type you would expect. I think Kadioglu was the one that I missed. I was away for like the last part of deadline day, so I missed most of what happened. And I think it was the Kadioglu one went through really late, so I didn't actually know about that one until like the week afterwards or something. But I think up until the Rutter deal, everything was as expected of the level and the excitement and the potential and the type of players and all the rest of it. But then the Rutter deal, like you said raised eyebrows. I thought that was a massive overpayment. Like for what he'd achieved so far and where he was coming from, that I thought that was quite huge, to be honest. Like I say, he's really surprised me, not just by the performance level, but by the aggression in his game, by how well he's fitted in playing that sort of second line rather than up front. Yeah, you can't knock their scouting yet again, I think it's fair to say.
No, you can't. And when you look at the attacking options that they have at that club right now, on the wings, he's out injured at the moment, but obviously Solly March is one. Yankuba Minta, Brian Gruda, they're sort of the right wing options. That's a really, really good group of wingers. On the left, you've got Matoma and you've got Adingra. Now, they've also got Osman, who's out on loan at Feyenoord, funnily enough, this season. But Matoma and Adingra as your left wingers, that's a really good place to be.
Hey guys, it's Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast, and I'm sorry to call time on the show before it ends. In the current climate, it's tougher than ever before to offer podcasts for free. At Anfield Index, we produce over 75 free shows every month, which I'm confident is unparalleled in the LFC sphere. Whilst we'd love to offer everything for free, the production costs now make this impossible. That said, we don't want to follow the model of other channels and lock all of our content behind a paywall. So what we've decided to do is to continue offering every show for free, but cut that offering to 30 minutes on our longer shows. So to get all of our shows in full and enjoy the best of everything we have to offer, we really hope you'll consider supporting the channel and signing up at AnfieldIndexPro.com. For about the price of one cup of coffee, you'll get every podcast in full with 0 ads. You'll also get access to our LFC VIP community, where you can enjoy live podcasts, engage with our podcasters, and chat with other Reds in real time. So that website again, AnfieldIndexPro.com. Join today.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.